Welcome to Cafe Chat Digital, presented by Alina Lewis, where we honor women, their work, and their worth. Get ready. Cafe Chat Digital premieres January 31st at 6 p.m. exclusively on our YouTube channel. Catch every episode. Be sure to subscribe and click that notification bell. I need to make this a theme song. So when I need some feel good music, I can just put it on and I just rub my shoulders a little bit. Hi, good evening. Welcome to Book Club Conversations, Series 4, Episode 3, where I'm joined with two lovely ladies. Of course, my name is Alina Lewis, and with me is who I call Mommy Ingrid and Janine, Ingrid Hakim and Janine Caesar. And they're on with us as we're continuing our discussions about the book, The Big Leap by Hendricks, as we share real life scenarios, real life lessons, discussing reflections, projections, and activation. Because, of course, this is a transformative journey that we're taking for our own individual, personal inspiration, but of course, sharing with those who would look on. So it's awesome, ladies. Hi, good evening. Super excited to be here with you as we discuss chapter 3. And chapter 3, of course, is entitled Getting Specific, How to Spot the Upper Limit Problem in Daily Life. And even before we start chatting, I must say, Janine, we missed you last week. I'm so happy to have you this week. And
I'm glad to be here.
joins on. Chanel, we miss you this week and hope to see you next week. But it's awesome. So even as we jump in, Janine, I'm tagging you first because you were missing in action last week, so we're gonna volunteer you first this week. What stood out for you as you started reading chapter 3? Because, of course, in our off-camera discussion, one of the things I was sharing is that this was a heavy chapter. So share your heart, share your thoughts, share your notes, Jan. You see, I'm well prepared today.
Listen, I went digital. I went digital this time. For me, what stood out for me was worry. I am a warrior. Not even soccer. I'm just a warrior. What is going to happen? Can I prepare for this? What is missing? Do I need to add anything else? Which I think used to help me before, but in reading the book, it made me think, can I get the same things done without worrying? Can I nip that in the bud one time and figure out, can you do something about it? No, there's no need to worry. So it was a little how do I describe this? It took me back a little bit. I had to sit and think, you need to change some of those ways. That worrying is going to keep you back from reaching your upper limit. Sorry, from reaching your zone of genius. It's going to make you crash into your upper limit.
Yeah, because of course the book talked about that notion of an upper limit problem. It's a notion that the book introduces. And it was saying that worrying is a sign that we're upper limiting, meaning that when we're upper limiting, we're doing something that is crimping our flow of positive energy. And for me, in my mind, I substituted the term positive energy to me being my best self. Upper limiting, I substituted it like that in my mind. And they were saying that the crucial sign that we're worrying unnecessarily. So, of course, the book isn't telling us you should never worry. But the crucial sign that we're worrying unnecessarily is when we're worrying about something we have no control over. And that was a really nice reflection for me, in that I try to be very aware what is the solution. So that way I know, should I be worrying? Because if I don't have a solution or I'm worrying about something I cannot impact, then I'm not going to do that. And it's something very intentional. that as I read it, I was like, oh wow, yeah, great. That's something I had been thinking about for a long time before, and had been really trying to, have as part of my mental routine how I process information. But Mommy Ingrid, what about you? Even as you were reading, anything, what would have stood out to you?
Right. Well, worry is a fact of life, right? So what um one little phrase that I read I love. Almost none of your worry thoughts have anything to do with reality. And when I read this book, I realized that I'm a little bit of, and later on he spoke about good worry and bad worry. Good worry is when something happens, you worry, but you can fix at that moment in time. And he drew that little example about making a cup of tea and enjoying a cup of tea, and halfway down the road, just start to worry, oh my God, did I turn on the kettle? And with me, I'm a person who irons just before I leave the house. So most of the times, did I unplug the heater? And then I realized, well, okay, yes, what he's saying is very true. So I don't turn back because I have someone at home, so I make the call. I call my daughter, my husband, can you just check to make sure? Because at that time, what could possibly happen? You could lose your home, it could burn. So, it's good worry. But then you have the bad worry where you're worrying about something you have absolutely no control over. And I had that real life experience just recently. 2 weeks ago, I went to do some business at the ministry, and when I got there, I got stumped because I was too late. Can't happen to the post off. And I didn't go into that worry, that panic state, because there and then I said, okay. So what I had to do is I went out and made a phone call, and the advice I got, I took. Let's not panic. Let's just do what we are told to do. You have to do a letter. Let's see and let's move forward. And then, well, with me, I prayed and I put it in the hands of God. And then I say, okay, I'm not hearing. So I pick up the phone and I made some phone calls, not knowing if I would get through. But I did by the grace of God. And everything worked out perfectly. But I am a person now, I never recognized where I was or where I am until I actually read the words and he broke it down. Where you have, I have always been that person, not always, but I'm like a combination of two. There are times I take myself to that place that is not, there's no reality because something happens there I have no control over, but I already start to worry about the consequences of the situation. And that time yet come, it's non-existent. I do that. And there are times when I would worry and I am able to say, okay, here's what there's nothing you can do about it now. Don't worry about what's going to happen Friday. Friday ain't even reach because the situation could change in the next hour. So I
Yeah.
am just caught in between, but never realizing it until I started reading this chapter.
Yeah. One thing that stood out to me, Gay Hendricks, as he was writing, he made a reference to a client he was working with where he was counseling them about money. And
Yes.
it came to a point where he made this statement and he said that money arguments never have anything to do with money. And so the question I wanted to have with you ladies is this. Have you ever noticed in your life the instance of having arguments, conflict, disagreements, or challenges, thinking it's one thing but realizing it's another? Especially now with the perspective of the book in mind. Is that an experience that you've had? It don't have to be about money, but if we look at life, it could be about something else. Is that something that you noticed that was an experience or is an experience with you?
It's it wasn't really an argument. It was an action that I needed to take, and I started to worry and think, okay, what if this happens? What if that happens? And I quickly went from A to Z, and I realized it was just fear that was keeping me back from taking that action. Um, it wasn't anything, it had nothing to do with that action, nothing at all. And from the time I resolved myself and said, I'm going to get this done, everything just flowed. Things flowed. I was so surprised at how quickly I got it done. And it's just something in your mind like, why did you have those barriers there to stop you from doing it? So when he started to talk about that in the book, I was like, I should have read this like a couple days ago. So I could have saved myself a whole lot of drama. It's something going forward. I need to I need to take into consideration. Don't put barriers. I mean, you try to, as an event manager, we need to mitigate risk as much as possible. But don't try to put barriers on things that may never come to pass. There's no reason to put that barrier there. And I had to sit back and think about going forward, how I stop myself from doing that.
Yeah, and even so, one of the things, and I put a super double highlight underneath it, where Hendricks, he says, I encourage you to make a careful study of your worry habits. And of course, Mommy Ingrid, I want to toggle at you there because worry is something you've spoken about a couple of times. Even as you consider that, um, what new, or it doesn't have to be new, but what revelation are you now having as you think about your habit of worrying? Is there anything that you're really learning from the book as it pertains to your habit of worrying?
Oh yeah, I have, I don't know. I get myself in these situations and places where the revelations just come at me. So I was at a client's office, and he's an older gentleman, so he has all these little things that like maybe little scriptures, little quotes and stuff. And so you're sitting and you're waiting, and you're just surrounded. And one thing I read, and I laughed to myself, not really laugh, I smiled to myself, and I'll read it to you. And I wrote it down on the palm of my hand, right? Worry is like a rocking chair. It gives you something to do, but does not take you anywhere. And I said, look, I don't know if he read that later on in this book, where he got that from. But it is so true because you're sitting on a rocking chair and this is your life. And you're going forward and you're rocking on this chair, but this chair is not taking you anywhere. So I think that's my revelation, really and truly. And I, Alina, it will, viewers might keep saying that I'm giving you all this credit, but I'll be honest, there are many times since I have met you, and it will always be considering my son, of course, academically, or even sometimes in my personal life when I reach out. And you have always said that to me, don't worry, because worrying is not going to fix the situation. It is not going to do anything at all except bring more pain, more self-doubt, chaos, confusion, and now you have a whole new problem because of the worry. That's it.
And you know what? Health issues as well. Because
Correct.
with unnecessary worrying comes a lot of health issues for
Correct.
so many of us. Like even I could tell you that there's a project that I'm working on, and just the timing of it wasn't what I originally planned. So it feels like it has thrown off everything. And I found myself maybe for at least maybe over 2 weeks just having headaches. I have headaches all the time. I have headaches all the time. And I'm combing my hair and I'm washing my hair and I'm doing all sorts of stuff trying to figure out what can I do to get rid of this headache. I'm pouring water, I'm wetting my scalp. I'm like, maybe it's the heat. And I had to tell myself the truth and say, no, you're worrying. You need to tell yourself the truth. And the whole idea was, and I tell that give that example to say sometimes we worry and don't realize that we're worrying. And we guise the effect under everything else. Like I was trying to convince myself that it's the heat and it's this and it's that. It's all, I'm trying to put it under all these medical things, and I had to pause and be like, you know what? You need to tell yourself the truth. This is a concern. You're displeased that the project isn't exactly the way that you wanted it to go. But what I was able to do once I could have given acknowledgement of that is to say, okay, Alina, what you gonna do? And I came to the point I was like, okay, I need to adjust my plans a little bit. And then I got quiet within myself because it's like, okay, I'm waiting for this thought to come to me. Well, that's how my brain works. I'm waiting for the thought to come. And, I was like, okay, wait for the thought to come. I need to call 1213, book a meeting, figure it out, change up some things. But I could have only been released to start to think about a solution once I acknowledge the source of what was going on, which is I had a concern, I wasn't pleased, and so I need to do something. But I have a question I want to ask you, ladies. Anybody could answer first. And it has to do with the part of the book that spoke about criticism. And I want to read it for those that might look at the video after but may not have the book. And he says that a lot of times worry thoughts have nothing to do with reality. And the same is true for criticism. When we criticize something, it usually doesn't have anything to do with the thing we're criticizing. When we blame someone or something, we're doing it because we've hit our upper limit and we're trying to retard the flow of positive energy. Both criticism and blame are addictions. Is this something as you were, probably as you got into reflective mode, did you see any of this in your own life? And if yes, what conclusions did you come to concerning it?
Hmm. I have a habit of, he gave an example of the manager who constantly criticizes employees um, anytime they did something good for the team, believing that, things can always be this good, things can always be this positive. And I have a habit that sometimes I would sabotage some of the good things that go on in my life by thinking, what was the flaw in that? Is there a flaw? And look for the flaw in that. Like literally have um, a microscope and I'm trying to get the flaw and I'm looking for the flaw. Like, where is this flaw? Where is this flaw? And sometimes there's none. And that's one of the things that I need to change to, just revel into the good times and say, yes, I do it to an extent. Um, Revel and say, well, yeah, I'm proud of this. I like how this happened, but don't harp on the bad things as well. When it comes up again, deal with it then. Don't harp on what happened, on the bad things that happened.
Yeah. Mommy Ingrid, what about you? Is that something you have observed at any point concerning yourself?
Yeah, I tend to criticize myself. Yeah, I criticize. I am easy. It's very easy for me to compliment someone who say you did such an excellent job. I do it all the time with the people I work with me, who work under me. I do it in the church with the kids, with my own kids. But myself, I criticize myself all the time because I know if let's say I'm doing something, I'm decorating something. Sometimes I need to dabble in these things, right? I take my time. I already know exactly. Like I was speaking to a candidate today, and she's asking me, what she has to do a rectification management. Those candles are really expensive, and it's not in her budget. I said, girl, you just take a regular candle and you decorate it, and I show her I sent a picture of something that I did for my cousin. And she says, you have time to do it again. I'm like, sure. So I know exactly what I'm going to do for her, but while I am doing that, I cannot see the beauty in it at all. I'm just thinking of what I could do better. This is what you're going to get me to do. I criticize myself. And then someone will pass and say, oh my God, you did that? You did that all by yourself? And I still will find a fault in it. And sometimes I will find myself doing, I'll strip it and go back and do it. And I'm coming up with the same result, and it is beautiful. I know it's beautiful enough, but it's not enough. It's not beautiful enough. So that's where I have my little issues. I criticize myself, and I think it's kind of that is what prevents me from accepting, as Chanel had said last week or week before, from being able to accept a compliment. I want to believe it's that. Now that I'm saying it out and we're talking about it, right?
I have a question though. What is the benchmark for enough? I was listening to you, and it's an interesting question for each of us, because and each of us might have a completely different
Yeah.
version of it in our heads at work. But it's interesting. What is the benchmark for enough? How do we know if whatever the it is, if it's good enough, or is it that Because let's say we're moving out of a place of self-sabotage, because a place of self-sabotage leaves being enough as an open-ended height that we will never attain. So if we were to pull back now and say, okay, I want to stop self-sabotaging in this way, so I'm going to create a benchmark. What would that benchmark be that says this is why I am enough or my effort is enough? What is the benchmark? Open question.
Never thought about it that way.
Well, I have always said that these smiles after an event, I still love that. The more smiles I see, the happier I am. I guess that is my addiction. To see the smiles after an event, people smiling and they're walking out and you realize they had a good time. That's a benchmark for me.
But here's
If
an
I
if
don't
I
see
may,
the
Janine, sorry, if I may, Janine, I'm thinking, and you don't have to give a specific answer, right? But I'm thinking if we were to now apply it to life, because only a piece of your life then is events and events coordination. So then when you think of you as a whole individual and you start to think about being enough, doing enough, then it means there may not be smiles because not everything would
But
involve the
that's what I was just gonna
smile.
say. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was
Sorry,
gonna
go ahead,
say
go
even
ahead.
that's all right. I was just gonna say that even if I don't see the smiles that I expected, um, how can I describe this now? Now, after reading the book, even if I don't see the smiles that I expected, as long as I have determined, because I know my ability, I know my creativity, if I know I have given my all and my best, I'm not going to worry about it anymore because it means now that those things will be on my power, they will be on my reach. There was nothing I can do about it. It makes no sense worrying about it now until um, I have the opportunity to do better in the future. But as it is now, I gave my best, which I usually try to do. I gave my best to the situation. Those things could not be helped. Stop worrying about it. You know what not to do in the future.
Yeah. Mommy, good. What about you?
Um, I think my like that situation that or that scenario I just spoke about. It's more of me trying to make sure that I'm doing this for someone and they're pleased. They're pleased with it, and they're not just going to say thank you because I did it or I volunteered or it was a gift. I want to know that they are satisfied, and really and truly, what it probably is that I want to know that I am satisfied with what I did. I don't know. I'm not too sure.
Is it possible for you to be satisfied if the other person is not?
Um, it's possible, but it maybe I feel disappointed if the person is not um, happy or satisfied with it. And sometimes, especially if you're giving someone something, they may say it, but you see it on their face first. I mean, I've never done something for someone and they were not satisfied genuinely or that. But it's just a fear that I have, and it's again go back to the owning up on your fears that somebody's relying on me to do something, and they're not going to be pleased with what it is. But I think it's just a fear or phobia. I don't know if it's a phobia or a fear. More fear.
Can I ask a question? Um, if you realize that that fear has come to pass, and let's say worst case scenario, the person starts to rant and rave, I don't like this is not what happens?
Well, it has never happened to me before, but I think I would bust out in tears. That's who I am. I want to be able to put it back. They would know. They would know that I'm hurt. I will feel hurt. I mean, I'm not gonna act on
Mm,
it. I'm not the person to get angry because
mm,
remember if I'm doing this, and I'm doing this, and you say, okay, you And that's what a lot of them will do. So what do you want? What do your color, whatever. You good. You just do something. So I know what I am creating here comes from me, my heart. This is what I would like for myself. And I understand that what I may like for myself may not necessarily be that you would jump and say, wow, you might like it, but it won't wow you. But I think if somebody reacts like that, I will burst out into this happy
But then what happens after that? You cry.
cry and then
You get that emotional upheaval.
yeah.
Then what?
But me, I as well, I would say, listen, this is I put my best in it. I know I put my best in it, and unfortunately, I cannot do better than this. I cannot do. I don't know what you're expecting because at the end of the day, when I did ask, you left it up to me, and maybe you should find someone else to do it for you, or maybe you could attempt doing it for yourself. I don't think I would be insulted or anything like that, but I did my best. Even,
And
even
while I'm talking to you, I'm figuring out for myself that I need to learn or figure out how I'm going to deal with disappointment, that kind of disappointment. Because I may also have an emotional upheaval. Probably I won't bust out in tears. um, but yeah, I need to figure out a way to deal with that disappointment. I will eventually deal with the disappointment, but I need to have like I think now I need to have a standard way. Do I get some, well, I'm not an ice cream person. I like pineapples. Do I get a pineapple and look at a movie and just deal with it?
deal with it.
Yeah, and as you're speaking, the thought just occurred to me. How do I want to deal with disappointment?
The thing about it is that, I mean, I'm speaking and I'm answering the question, but it has never happened to me. So, I am just going on, okay, if it should happen, maybe this is what I will do. I don't, sometimes we think this is, when something happens, we're going to react one way, and when it happens, it's a totally different reaction from what you envision that, for yourself.
The
So,
worry, the
yes,
worry, and realize we right back to the worry.
sorry. So it really is a difficult question to answer for me because I have never gotten that kind of reaction from someone. They normally like, oh my God, look, you should be doing this for a business or you should be doing this for, you know,
For me, in dealing with disappointments, I dissect to learn. Um, I have tried in earlier years to pacify myself emotionally. That does not work well for long. Because if for me, I'm an analytical, logical person, I must dissect to figure it out. Because sometimes we find that we could do things, especially if we're relating to other people, and there can be disappointment or dissatisfaction. The focal point is the thing or the service you provided, but the disappointment has nothing to do with you. And I have had to learn that over the years, under many very different circumstances. So, okay, let's say, okay, like I work in education. So in providing a service, there isn't it's not a tangible product that you can measure in terms of how a child function in a learning environment. So let's say on a rare occasion a parent is not happy with something, or parent is dissatisfied with a process, then that could be an emotional thing because I take I can't say my job, but I take what I do very seriously. I'm very passionate. I'm all out. So if a parent is expressing disappointment or dissatisfaction in the work that my team is doing, that's something I take to heart in a deep, 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 deep way. But I have learned, for example, not every disappointment means something was wrong with me or the way
Mm-hmm.
that I did what I had to do. So, for example, I remember having a conversation, it's a long time ago, with a parent, and they were dissatisfied with the speed at which the child was progressing. in terms of the improvement in the child's reading skills and other content areas. But when we look at it, and we had that consultation and we're chatting, what we found is that there was no revision, no reinforcement of work after the child leaves home, after the child leaves school, sorry. And what slipped out in an emotional moment of the parent is, I can't handle that, I can't deal with that, I don't want to sit down with her, that's why I'm sending her to you. So then when I pull back, I realize, oh, the disappointment actually is not with me. Of course, this is just something internal I have to process, because no regular, traditional, normal parent going to admit, I do want to help my child. Very few parents would come out and say that. But that's what it came down to. I can't do this. I don't want to do this. This is why I'm sending her to you. And so I had to realize, okay, the great disappointment is not because my team didn't do a good job with the child. We did what we were supposed to do. The challenge was that the parent was disappointed with him and herself, but because they couldn't admit that we as parents are not willing to do our part, then the easy thing to do is, Lewis, I'm going to blame you.
Yeah.
You should have done more. But of course, if the child is not with me, I cannot revise with a child after
There's
school.
no need.
Not with me. So I had to, I mean, I could tell many stories, not of that, but of different things where you look at it and you realize the problem wasn't you or your service or your product or whatever you did. Sometimes people's disappointment is with themselves or a misunderstanding or miscommunication. And so for me, when I pull back and I dissect from start to end, it helps me to refresh in my understanding as to, okay, what was my role in this? Did I do what I was supposed to do? And I'll take it a bit further. If it is really to think about it in a professional sense, it's the reason why for me, with the work that I do, I have a lot of documentation. And some people come and be like, all of that. But no, the documentation is necessary, because you see, what it does is that we create clear communication and we create accountability. Because guess what? Let's say in an education, if you come in and you have an initial assessment and I have your quality of work, I have your grades, I have the notes, I have the projections, I have the timelines, I have all of this recorded. And then 2 months later, you come and say, Louis, you're doing a terrible job. I would say, okay, let's talk about it. And I would pull out all of the documents. So this is where we were. This is what I said I was going to do. The record showed this is what I did. This is the results that I got. And you look at all the different parts. So we stop having emotional conversations and we start having factual conversations. And I have found when I'm able to dissect my experiences, where I put emotion on a cupboard for a little bit and I look at it logically. I have had conversations with, sometimes you work with people and you're investing money together, and maybe something doesn't work out well, like the way that you planned it, and or you didn't do this, or however the conversation goes, there is that emotional because we're upset it didn't work out. Okay, let's talk about it. Pen to paper, let's make that list. What did you spend? What did I spend? What needed to be have been spent? What was the intention? What was the goal? Did I do what I was supposed to do? Did you do what you break it down? I have found, at least for me, that when I dissect experiences, especially when it comes to criticism and blame, no matter who is doing the criticizing, whether I am being critical in my mind or whether another person is being critical, by dissecting the experience and looking at each person's role, what was required, what was communicated, it makes it easier to move past the intensity of the emotion and come to a place of common understanding. You're
And
quiet.
then King Hendricks spoke about that as well. He said when he was talking about the Bosnian conflict, and he said, the you can't divide 100 between two people. You need to accept the fact that 100% of the fault is yours, and I need to accept 100 my 100%, and that's the way we move forward. It has
Yeah.
already happened. How do we move forward?
But I think you know
So
what makes it
it makes no
interesting
sense.
when when maybe the other party isn't willing to accept
Yeah, they're
their
not willing to.
100%.
Mhm.
I think that's what
And
makes it
he said
exciting.
that I thought it was so nice. Well, not nice, but it blew my mind when he said, by you not accepting your 100%. I'm not saying you had, this is not catered to you, totally to
Of
you.
course, yes.
By you not accepting your 100%, you're adding what you're not accepting onto the other person. So the other
Which
person
is
might,
true.
which you're expecting them now to take 135% of the blame, which is unfair to anybody. Nobody wants that. So you need to realize that you need to accept what was the failure in, not failure.
But you know what I have learned to do though that has taken away that dissatisfied, disappointing emotional experience? I have learned, let me rephrase that. I have chosen to be intentional about not accepting other people's portion of blame. And that has made a huge difference to me because there are circumstances in life where people will not accept their portion of responsibility for a thing. And so it's easy to just absorb it because it's being directed to you, it's being put to you, especially when there's a lot of emotion involved. But I have found that by analyzing, breaking it down, and getting clarity, I then could make a decision. You know what? No, I do not receive that. I do not accept that. And whether I say it out loud or it's just an internal posture that I choose to take, that has made a huge difference in my ability to not have all these negative emotions circling around me because I then can make a decision from within that even though we didn't get to be in a place of seeing eye to eye where you could pick up your bundle and I pick up mine and we work on it together, I could still make a decision that I will not pick up yours. I will
Yeah.
leave it at your
Yep.
doorstep. It's up to you if you want to pick up yours, but I'm not going to carry it. I'm going to deal with me and my portion and then figure it out from there. If it's like an ongoing relationship, I figure it out after, but I'm not picking up yours. I can't. If I can, I will try to help you. And I'm not doing it. It's something for me
But
that is intentional.
it's also something that you need to take stock of, because sometimes in order to keep the peace, you want to absorb that 100% of the blame.
Sometimes.
Yeah, sometimes. And then that now is going to affect you while the other person skips happily away.
Yeah.
So now you are according to Ms. Hakim, you are now in tears
Yes.
because you
Bowling.
accept you're accepting their 100%, because
Yeah.
I'm not saying this is what you did, Ms. Hakim, but you're accepting their 100%. So you were there with 100% falling, 100% falling, and they went about their
Yeah.
business and they're happy for
Yeah.
you. No, as Alina said, you need to decide whether internally or vocally, I'm not accepting that. I
Yeah.
did what I did what I could. I put my all into it.
And that
You
has
need
changed
to
my
yeah, you
life.
need to recognize that. Yeah.
That has changed my life personally and professionally.
Yeah.
That awareness has changed my life and it releases me to have to just do what I do and to be who I am. Because you see, when we at least I have found when we have to engage relationships, whether business, professional, personal, whatever, when we have to gauge relationships knowing that there is a history there of me having to absorb your blame, for me I have found like there is a level of fear and trepidation, and it makes it difficult to really be your authentic self because now I had to have your guard up because I know if this goes wrong, there's going to be an explosion. You're going to blame me. It wasn't my fault, but I got to take it. So for me, it has saved me a lot of headache, a lot of heartache, a lot of frustration because I get to make a conscious decision to communicate positively, do my best to help someone understand if it is they're willing, but if a person is not willing, I do my best to at least communicate my place and what I'm willing to do. And I draw lines, not for conflict, but for sanity. Because I think on one hand, there could be, okay, let me take on the blame for peace, but I question whether it is be peace or quiet, because is it really peace because there is quiet, but are you the person, am I the person
Please.
in a place of peace? And usually the answer is no. So for me, it might not apply to others, but for me, I have found that when we say we taking the blame, or we doing it this way for the sake of peace, what we doing it is for the sake of quiet,
Yeah.
because I the individual, am not in peace. And the other thing I have experienced, and so I'm very mindful of it, is when we sweep things under the rug under the name of peace, the next time it explodes, the explosion is worse. So for me, I tend to try to avoid that for the sake of peace. Now if it's working for somebody else, hey, run with it, me, I have found when the explosion returns, it's usually worse, and there's much more collateral damage, whether in your emotions or in otherwise. There's a lot
It's
more
going to
collateral
affect
damage.
it's
Yeah,
going to affect your zone of genius because
yeah,
now you're taking on somebody else's challenges. So
definitely. And I'm not trying to say we shouldn't help people and lift
yeah,
people
I
up, but
understand.
I think we know that we're talking about those circumstances where you're dealing with people who ain't trying to be lifted up. They're in their own space of whatever that is not, conducive to our emotional and psychological well-being. And those are the type of circumstances I have found, for me at least, to not take on other people's place in responsibility. But he spoke about something that really opened my eyes up to a different perspective, which is when he spoke about integrity. And it really caught my attention, his chat while writing about integrity and breach of integrity. And again, for those who would look at it later but not have the book, he says to be in integrity means that you are whole and complete. To be out of integrity means a breach in wholeness has occurred and there is a gap in completeness. And I truly had never thought about integrity from that perspective. That because usually when we talk about integrity, we talk about morality and right and wrong and good and bad
It's two different
and
things.
value system, but never from the perspective of to be whole and complete, and looking at integrity from a place of saying, I am able to live in integrity, to communicate with integrity when I'm whole. Did you all get to read that? And if yes, what were your thoughts about it?
I don't think I reached that far because of my peace. Um, my integrity is, I always say that my integrity is me on the inside and the outside, and I don't compromise my integrity for no one or anything at all. You know, when we were talking just now, it kind of brought me back to a situation where, remember I told you I am caught in between. One minute I will worry about something, and but in another situation I am able to rationalize. And a couple of years ago, my husband and I got ourselves in a situation. You know what? That beautiful thing for life. Sometimes when it comes at you, you have to make this decision. But we had just not too long ago purchased a new home, and we sat down and we drew up the nice plan into the future. And that beautiful thing for life happened. And we were now faced with a situation where we had to let go of one. And of course, you wouldn't want to let go of the dream also what could be for the dream also for the family and so forth. But realistically, where we are right now, if we had decided to sell here, it would not have been able to do what it was supposed to or was needed to do, you know. And my husband is going through that S on the chest. That's what I call it. I call it his S on the chest. And I'm lit. And he's telling me that he said, and he used that word. He says, I have no integrity. I'm a man. And you know what I said? But let me tell you something. And you see, this is where I will jump from one extreme to the next. And I told him, I said, listen, and as you said, both of you all said, and we've been saying from the beginning, right? I told him, I said, listen, people make mistakes, things happen. You cannot live in the past. You can't go back 2 minutes ago and take back what was done over the second. What we have to do is to move forward. And he keeps bringing up that word integrity, integrity, integrity. Because he's thinking about the whole world looking in at him, right? And I'm saying to him, no. So we had to make that decision. We went, we spoke to everyone. We checked every single venue, every single aspect of it. And the other house in River had to be sold. And it was sold, and things were better, financially and everything. This is the home where your children were born into and everything. And I telling you, I'm saying, you have to look at it like this. You questioning your integrity because you did some things, irresponsible things, and you are saying this is your fault. But it's not only the things that you did, it's just circumstances and life, right? And he can't understand how I could think like that, And I'm telling him, I say, I choose peace over
Yeah.
misery. I
Mm-hmm.
make a choice
Yeah.
over misery. And then I told him, I said, sometimes this is how life works in a certain way. The family who got the house it was so beautifully done. That's the only way I could say it was done so quickly. And I tell myself, God had to do this. God had to handle this because it was done so quickly and so smoothly. So much so that everybody is like, nobody sells a home that quickly, you know. And the person who bought it was a family. The woman had just found out she was pregnant with 2 we were just, this is how I would think. Maybe, and I'm telling you, maybe we were just that vessel for them to have that house. That's how God works. That's how I
Mm-hmm.
believe
I
God works.
agree.
We got that house in a time when we could have afforded it and so forth and so forth. And yes, when you hear their story, there's so many reasons why that house was more perfect for them than for us. And he's still up to this day, he goes back to it's his fault, the S on the chest, and I'm telling him, I say, I was disappointed we lost that house. I just like you wanted to go there. I just like you had a dream for that house and children and so forth. But it's gone. And there's nothing you can do for that. And that's where we are. And from there to came a lot of blame game as well. Not by me, not
Yeah.
by the peacemaker,
Yeah.
but and if we had done, but you didn't want to listen to me, we could have gone there, but the way I'm not going there with my children, it could have no fence and no wall. And I would just listen. At first, it used to really get to me, get to me. And then I told myself, what would happen when that happened? Then my mouth is very sassy and saucy, right? And then you hear, bam, I'll start to answer back, and then we get angry with each other, say things, and one storm out, and then relationships start to get fractured a little bit, bruised a little bit. And sometimes I would stoop to saying things that when I am done, I am so hurt by my words and my actions. And I decided I am going to choose peace, not
Yeah.
misery, because misery compromises my integrity of who I am. I am not that person. Misery and disorder changes a person, and it changes them from the inside out because when your inside changes, it reflects on the outside, So while you were talking, Elena, it just took me back to that other extreme where I would make a little candle, but I doubting myself, yes. But when a situation like that takes place, I am the one. And he's always saying, how could you always find this positive in this big negative, always. And I always tell him that, I say, but when you have a rainy day and the sky is gray and you really look up, you always see a little shimmer of light somewhere. Somewhere you do see a shimmer of light, but he still can't see that. And then what I find myself doing, as you say, sometimes, most of the times, and you're right, Elena, it's not peace, it's quiet. I stay quiet. Sometimes I even agree and I start to compromise my integrity because I know I don't believe that to be so. So I start to agree just not to go in that place
Yeah.
that makes me feel, you know. So, yeah.
But I thought it was interesting when he compared integrity to wholeness or as an expression of wholeness because it made sense as I reflected on experiences I've had with people where it wasn't the most pleasant. And when when I reflected on things I've heard people say, and how some people, I call them venomous in terms of the way that they talk. It made me pull back and realize, wow, that person really does have maybe some broken spaces on the inside where they're not complete. So that is why they struggle to maybe be positive or say good things or look at life from a good perspective. And so I looked at it not just from the me point of view, but I really took it that bit that he wrote about integrity to help me understand the behaviors of others, because sometimes the behaviors of others feel a little confusing, but it helped me to understand it better because then it helped me understand why some people respond the way they do. Janine, you look like you're in deep thought. Penny for your thoughts, although we don't have pennies anymore, I don't
I give
think.
you a whole dollar. I had a thought. I was thinking back about a person that I knew, and um, let me go further back. He spoke about the difference between integrity and morals and ethics. He said, as you said, integrity is your whole. It's
Wholeness and
you. It was there
completeness. Yeah.
before you learn about morals and you learn about ethics. But integrity is within you
Yeah.
before you learn about all of that. Right? And I remembered someone I knew, and this person, there's a term for that I'm struggling to remember, where it's like veiled insults, but it's covered in sweetness, but it's
Mm-hmm.
veiled insults.
Mm-hmm.
And that person, you always look for the negative to come. You always expect the negative to come. I'll give you an example. Oh gosh, you look nice today. What was going on with you yesterday that you didn't look like that today, yesterday? Right? Where was your integrity then?
That's right.
Why did you feel the need to say that? And after a while, I started to notice that had nothing to do with me.
Yeah.
That's some insecurities in you that you need to deal with. I
Yes.
felt I looked good yesterday. I was happy. I was comfortable. I got my things done. I went to my bed comfortable. Right? I feel the same today. I might look different, but I feel the same today. So you can say what you need to say. I'm not buying you 100%. I know how I feel.
That's right.
Even if I'm the kind of person, especially when I don't feel good, you're going to get the nice lipstick. You're going to get the makeup. I need to make myself
Yes.
feel good. There's nothing you can do. Well, yes, you can compliment, and I'm going to appreciate the compliments, but it starts with me.
Yes.
I need to make myself feel good so that I can help others feel good, so that I can get good results in everything that I do. And at the end of it all, I lean on God's strength. So you could say what you want to do, but my integrity is going to make me feel good and going to help me to lend that to whoever needs it at the time without having to try to without the thinly veiled insults.
Yeah.
I'm going to try to give that to you. And
Yeah.
you know how some people say kill them with kindness.
Mm-hmm.
I'm being very honest. That's not in me, you know.
Mm.
That is not in me. I'm going to give you all the love that I feel, all the joy that I feel. But if it's not being reciprocated, it means that you are dealing with something, and the best thing that I can do for you is love you from afar and give you time to deal with it. I still love you. I'm still going to hug you whenever we can hug again. But I'm still going to love you. I'm still
Yeah,
going to love you from afar.
you
What
know,
you're doing is not going to stop me.
yeah. He asked some questions that I thought were not easy questions to answer. Not just because I think it's not easy, just because I think it's not going to be easy for anybody. And some of those questions are, where do I feel out of integrity with myself? What is keeping me from feeling complete and whole? What important feelings am I not letting into my awareness? Where in my life am I not telling the full truth? Where in my life have I not kept my promises? And in my relationship with fill in the blank, what do I need to say or do to feel complete and whole? And I thought those questions to be so deep in the sense that beyond the questions to be answered, I thought it was interested to really promote a sense of awareness, because to ask yourself, what is keeping me from feeling complete and whole, is having to acknowledge, are there areas in my life that I'm not feeling complete and whole? And then, if yes, what are those areas? And then, when I answer that, then I can answer what is keeping me from feeling complete and whole. Or to ask, where in my life am I not telling the full truth? I thought that's such a deep question, because I mean, we have all these different facets or areas of life to consider. Then to consider what is the truth, consider how we communicate it, not just to others, but ourselves. You know, like today, just today, I had such a terrible experience with customer service, following up with some customer service, and it bothered me for the entire day. It bothered me to the point that by this evening I sat and I wrote a letter about it. I was so upset. But I was asking myself, why are you so upset? It's not about the money. I know it's not about the money. Why are you so upset? And it took me all day just mulling. I still write a letter, and I still sent a letter in about it. But I'm thinking, because I'm processing it, like I am not one to get upset. So the fact that I was so deeply upset by this poor customer service, I had some I don't want to say hard questions, they weren't hard, but definitely they were deep. And I've come up with some answers, and I have to continue thinking about it, because certainly something has happened that caused a trigger to jump out. And that's why when this thing happened, it bothered me so deeply. And I found that these questions that he's asking are almost like that we really have to sit and think and go deep, whether in our history, in our habits, in our thought processes, so that in the areas, in what I would call, I guess, the areas of deficiencies, we could really work to pull ourselves out. So, of course, my final question is: we've done a lot of reflection for the evening, but what projections and action points are you taking into the week ahead?
To identify the areas of worry and snap myself out of it. Because he spoke about how quickly it can happen,
Yeah.
how quickly you can deal with that worry and move on to bigger and better. I need to work on the speed that I snap myself out of it. Try
Mhm.
not to wallow in it, deal
Yeah.
with it, and move on.
Yeah. Got it. Mommy Ingrid, what about you?
Well, for me, it's actually just continuing what I have recognized that needs to be done, and it was done and it was so successful, which brings back that same experience that I had within the last 2 weeks. And really and truly, sometimes it kind of goes back to everything you say, that venom that comes out of a person. And when I walked in there, this person is not looking at the information desk administering, not looking at me, running the sanitizer and give me, just threw me off. And when I did this decide, okay, no, Elena put a quarrel with me for worrying. Worry not going to get me anywhere. Then if I worry and I overreact and I bust out into the tears, then I have to close this book and no longer be on this program. So let me, it had to do with school. I'll admit that. I wouldn't get into the story, but it had to do with school and my son. And I went outside and I called Elena and I called another person and I got the advice I needed. I went back into the ministry and did what I had to do. When I actually went back into the ministry, which was this week, that person was just asked to sit there and she was not pleased about it in the morning. So everything she told me was a lie. Yes, it was a lie.
Sorry, I know the circumstance. I am gasping.
Everything was
You, oh my God.
Why?
the gentleman I told you I spoke to and said I could not get what I was applying for, another lie.
Close your mouth, Alina. Wow.
Because the person who came down and attended to me, and when I told her that, she looked at me, no. She said this happens sometimes just before, the day before examination. She said, who told you that? And when I told her, she was amazed. She said, no. And here what she said to me, Mommy, but I can't give you false hope. But because your file was signed off by the top person who I sent my email to, you're supposed to be fine. So if I had gone against what my better judgment, what Elena had told me and what Mr. Hendricks told me, then I would have had one full week of craziness. And it just turns out that somebody did not want to be there because that's not her post or her job. So I could just, what I got upset that morning for is it is a sensitive matter. And how many other parents did you say this to? But what upset me, and I did make it,
Wow.
and she did inform me to write the CEO, was that the concession, it was not, they had extended it from the deadline date. They changed it from the 14th to the 22nd. So I was well within
The time frame.
my time frame, my rights. And the person knew this. Knew this.
Wow.
Yeah. So
But what do they gain from? I always wonder, what do you gain from that?
Lack of wholeness and completeness. This person is not in integrity. You see, this is how it helps us to understand. This person clearly lacks wholeness and completeness within. So they're living in maybe a state of some level of dysfunction. So what it produced would be dysfunction. Boom. Okay, Hendricks, give us the answer.
and you know, I didn't even have to come outside and call you. She was supposed to direct me to examinations, which was right behind her. And they would have done everything that was
They would
needed.
have guided you.
Not even guided. What she told me couldn't have been done, they would have done it. They would have called the same officer who came to me, but this person is the supervisor of that department. And I would have spoken to her and she would have taken it right there and I would not,
Right?
my call would have been a happy phone call to you. So, but you know what? I still decided at that point, even there at that morning when this officer is telling me, do not compromise your integrity because I wanted to call that woman's her name, sir. God knows. But you know, and I told her, I say right now it's not about her or it's not about anything. It's about my son. It's about what needs to be done. And I am just so peaceful. I couldn't finish thank that woman and God right there. And I told her, I say, you just made my day. Unfortunate because I'm asking her, I said, but you all need to consider and maybe you should take it as the supervisor. How many other parents went through the
That is
same
my
thing?
thinking.
Parents may not have an Elena to give them the advice, or even me to be that person who could talk and could, what
And
happening, what is happening.
it's not just that you're not affecting the mummies, you're affecting the children.
And
You're
what
affecting the
my son was standing right next to me when all of this had happened. Yeah.
No.
But the break, so the SRC, so he handled his story. Yeah. So for me, it is actually what I have developed inside me now, and that whole situation tells me, Ingrid, continue, as Mr. Hendricks said, you have to put it into action, you have to put it into practice.
Yeah.
Practice, when you practice, it becomes part of you. So it will become natural, it will become part of your personality, part of your habit, which is a good habit. So that's my moving forward. Just keep
Yeah.
doing, just keep doing it. And just remember,
Okay.
when I come up to people like that, I just have to ask myself this question in the mind: what would Jesus say?
I think definitely for me moving forward this week, I wanna focus on these questions. I think they're pretty deep questions, and I don't want to overlook and assume or come up with a superficial, surface level answer for me. So definitely, I wanna take time to really write out these questions and take a look to focus on them, just to make sure I am clear in my mind about where I am at in all of these areas. I want to look at it a bit deeper before I get into chapter 4. So, ladies, as always, it's so wonderful chatting with you. And truly, this is going to continue to be a transformative experience for all of us and those who would view it later on. It's great having you join in the series. Be sure to read the book and comment in the section below. Let us know your thoughts, your journey, and of course, like and subscribe. Until next week, have a good one.
Bye.